This slide denotes the correlation of evidence in the portfolio to the performance standard required of the Gifted and Talented program. As you can see from the chart, all standards are covered over the course of 4 activities. The first activity was an independent task that introduced students to the beginning of a new unit entitled Choice and Conformity. In the unit, students would analyze what aspects of life influence our decision-making abilities. This concept is analyzed through the fiction novel, The Giver, which has also been supplemented with a variety of nonfiction texts and poems that speak to the same topic. The independent task that introduced students to the unit involved them selecting a problem that is plaguing society right now. I had a list of 9 items on the board, which included racism, hate, hunger, poverty, disease, sexism, violence, war, and crime. Students could select any issue they wanted to, but many chose issues that they have experienced in their personal lives, including in their families, cultures, and socioeconomic statuses. The self-choice in the task was purposeful so that students could truly connect to the content by researching about the very issues that impact their lives. At this stage in their development, many gifted and talented students want to learn more about quote-unquote adult problems. They are rather unconcerned with the day-to-day interests of their peers and would rather elicit conversation from adults about current issues. This task gives students a chance to spend time with current and relevant real-world issues that have global impact. In their research, students gathered evidence in the form of facts, statistics, and testimonies to prove that their issue was, in fact, the worst issue. During the assignment, students used their iPads to travel to trusted sites that provided them with videos, interviews, research, articles, etc. Throughout the entire project, students had clear directions that were given in both verbal and written formats. Students were motivated to learn about the topic because they had a personal stake in the content. Students felt empowered that they were tackling issues larger than themselves or their school. While they researched, they were allowed to use flexible seating so that their work could be completed in an ideal, safe, and comfortable environment. The student under the blanket in the bottom photo had ADD and covered himself so that he would not be prone to distractions. Some students chose to use their textbooks as a reference, while others used iPads and cell phones. The freedom during the task completion allowed students to feel comfortable so that I could meet the needs of all students and that they could modify the task so that they could be successful. At the end of the independent research, students created a presentation to convince their group members why their issue was the worst. Students again had freedom of choice in their presentation style. Some chose Google Slides, some made a video, one made a news broadcast in which he pretended to report the news. Others wrote newspaper articles or created pamphlets that they would pass out on the street. One student even made a skit that he would present to younger children at an assembly. After the presentation, students completed a self-assessment of how well they were able to communicate that their issue was the worst. The independent task required rigorous and challenging work, but the true challenge came when students had to synthesize their projects with their group members. In the second part of the task, students collaborated with others to brainstorm a way that society might eliminate the problems they had previously researched. Students analyzed the elimination strategies and decided which solutions were feasible and which were not. Students were allowed to be as creative as they could be. However, they were encouraged to maintain respect for one another and all ideas. Students were reminded that some issues hit very close to home, as many people in the class had experienced these problems. Students were encouraged to be careful about their word choice and not to judge others' solutions too harshly. As a group, they wrote on a poster board how they planned to solve the problems and eliminate the problems for society. They would then categorize how likely each solution was to happen. For example, one group proposed a few ideas to eliminate racism. Their society would require everyone to undergo a surgery that made everyone look the same. They said this task was impossible. The same group said that another society would separate communities where everyone looked the same, and that the communities would not have access to each other. They said that this was possible. The final solution the group came up with was for everyone to take a pill that eliminated our ability to see color. They said this was a possible solution, but very difficult to achieve. The students collaborated with each other to categorize their ideas into possible solutions, possible but very difficult, or completely impossible solutions. Once all the ideas were categorized, students presented to each other in groups. One person per group was nominated as the leader. The leader had to be a strong advocate for each of the solutions devised and must be able to present in a confident manner while answering questions that other groups might have had. The groups then participated in a one stray activity in which the group leader strayed away from the group and presented their solutions to others. The leader had 1 minute and 30 seconds to present the solution and explain the categorization. Group members then provided feedback about the accuracy of the solution to eliminate the original problem and the accuracy of each solution's assigned category. Once students completed their projects and their presentations, they engaged in a Socratic seminar to debate which issue was truly the worst. In the Socratic seminar, students read an article about a philosopher's view on some of the issues. They then spent time developing higher-order thinking questions that they could ask each other during the debate. The students then divided into two groups and were assigned a partner from the opposite group. Of the partners, one chose the inner circle and the other chose the outer circle. Partners sat directly in front of or behind each other. The inner circle partner was responsible for discussing the content, which societal problem was the worst. The outer circle student was responsible for assessing the debate, the behavior, and the content. Before the debate, students set goals for themselves. The goal was given to their partner, and during the course of the debate, the partner decided if the student met their goal. Students in the inner circle had 25 minutes to debate. At the 15-minute mark, partners turned to each other for a 30-second conference in which they received feedback and encouragement. Students then returned to the conversation for another 10 minutes of the debate. During the debate, inner circle members who didn't feel comfortable speaking could post a comment to a live chat room via their iPad. A student in the inner circle was assigned a role of monitoring the chat room so that they could voice comments or questions posted to the chat. The chat room allowed students who were not comfortable speaking or students who could not think of a point quickly enough to still have a space to participate. While the inner circle debated, the outer circle was assessing their peers' comments and behavior. Students in the outer circle completed a rubric and provided comments. These comments were disclosed to the partner during the break at the 15-minute mark. The outer circle partner also had a stack of post-it notes that they used to pass to the inner circle. The outer circle could pass notes, which could have been a reminder for the inner circle student to speak, advice of what evidence to present, a question to ask, encouragement to get someone else to speak, or simple praise about their comments. In this activity, outer circle students acted as advocates and supporters for inner circle students as they debated. After 25 minutes of debate, students had a collective brain break and then switched roles so that the inner circle became the outer circle. Students were assessed informally on their ability to present evidence and defend their stance. Their verbal as well as their written skills were part of an evaluation for a potential gifted and talented placement. The lesson ended with a self-reflection of their behavior, ability to debate, and their knowledge of the content. This activity was so successful that my administration asked me to lead a professional development about how to engage students during a Socratic seminar. I was able to help other teachers perform debates in their classrooms by observing their lessons and giving live feedback. After students had a strong understanding of the issues plaguing the world, they were introduced to a place where none of these problems existed, a utopia. A utopia is a society in which Jonas, the main character of The Giver, lives. Students engaged in several lessons to learn about the elements that were involved in utopian and dystopian literature. Students then transferred their knowledge of the dystopian elements to create their own dystopian story. Students had to address one of the issues that was plaguing society and develop a solution that would fix it for their utopia. The solution but then needed to be so drastically horrible that it tore society apart, thus dissolving the setting into a dystopia. Again, students chose issues that were personal to their lives. I did not give students a page limit for this assignment so they could be as creative as they wanted to. This allowed me to respect their creativity, one of my ethical morals as a teacher, so I was not involved in their thought process and did not limit them. Students could create any world they wanted. So long as it was school appropriate, I did not infringe upon their creative abilities. Students were given directions, a brainstorming sheet, and the rubric shown here to guide their thinking. This is the DOE rubric for grade 8. The rubric is divided into 3 distinct sections. I grade all regular education students in the score of 3 column because that indicates on grade level ability in work. Over the course of the year, I had evaluated which students tend to write at the above grade level skill set. I collected data from various formative and summative assessments as well as standardized test scores from MAP and STAR. Lumped together, this data gave me an idea of which students were ready to be evaluated at the score of 4 above grade level column. Once I had a list of students who presented the abilities to meet above grade level standards, I wrote a letter sent home to parents requesting that I have permission to grade their child on a more rigorous rubric than their peers. In the letter, I advocated for the gifted and talented child by explaining to the parent that their child needed to be challenged, and that together we'd be able to do this. However, if the student assessed their own abilities and determined themselves not ready to be pushed, or if the parent was not ready for the child to be pushed, I did not enforce the above grade level writing rubric. As all students wrote, they had access to a piece of technology, which was a new writing program called PEG Writing. PEG is a cloud-based web program that is classified as an automated essay scoring system. Students input their writing, and PEG gives them a score based on the 6 traits of writing. PEG also provides feedback about how they can improve their score, which includes spelling and grammar. Students can resubmit their writing as many times as they want to increase their score. During their final submission, they can request a peer review. The peer review feature allows students to send an anonymous copy of their writing to another student in the room. The peer review student then fills the page with comments and questions about the student's writing. The feedback, along with the writing, is digitally returned to the original student who can make edits, apply the comments, and submit for the last time. The program allows students to receive instantaneous feedback. What would take me minutes to read, process, and report, PEG can do in seconds. PEG has allowed the students to receive meaningful, personalized feedback without relying on me to slowly grade and read all of their work. PEG motivates the students to make improvements and revise their writing as they want to continuously see their score rise. PEG also makes them aware of their shortcomings, in which they are now aware of the aspects as they move on to their next writing piece. The program does not discriminate and can be used in any core class. Students have told me that they want to use PEG in their science and social studies classes to check their writing before submitting. The PEG system has truly motivated them to become better writers. As the ELA department head, I work with the school counselor to organize an annual field trip for 8th grade students to see local university. For the past 2 years, students have spent the day at Wilmington University. This trip allows students to experience similar content in multiple environments so that they are aware of what their